Okay, so Randy, do you want to introduce yourself
Sh-
and just explain who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Randy Locklair. I live in Brooklyn, New York. Among other things, bike related, I guess I'm the membership director of CRCA, which is the one of the oldest and largest road racing teams in the country. I also do a lot of work sponsoring racers and races, just because of my own personal interest and love for the sport, and because of all that, we're here today.
Okay, so I met you because you were working with the Red Hook Crit and doing like the timing app.
Yeah, so we built an app so that if you're watching this high paced race, and you're trying to figure out who's in the lead and who's where everyone's ranking and how everyone's doing, you'd get by a lap times streamed straight to your phone while you're watching the race. So you'd see the peloton go flying by, and then you'd see everybody look down at their phones and be like, oh cool, all right, my buddy's in fourth. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it was really cool. And so was that something that they reached out to you to do, or was this another Randy like I have an idea type
Definitely,
deal?
definitely the latter. We
I
were
have stopped. Oh, never mind. It's my headphones. It's not you. Carry on.
we had a few friends who were involved in the race, and I said, hey, we'd love to try and do this thing. Let's give it a shot. And so we kind of tested it out that first year, and it went really well. And we ended up traveling around, going to the first Barcelona Red Hook Crit, going to Milan, and just doing this production of this app for the race. And then they decided the second year we were involved, let's add a women's field. Everyone's asking for it. Let's do it. And so as soon as I found that out, I was like, all right, well, I want to help. I put some money towards it, and I was also like, well, let's build a team. Let's send some people to this race who might not have the means to, or might not know about it, or whatever. And that's how we met.
Right. So, from my memory, you were looking for five women to
Yep,
support.
yep.
And from my memory, you ended up supporting, is it two?
I think God, it was so long ago now. I think it was three. I think, and I would be in trouble to try and name who the third was at this point. But maybe it ended up being two. I'm sorry, it's been so long at this point.
I just
I have to
remember
look
it
back.
being two of us on race day. So maybe somebody had to drop out for some
Yeah,
reason.
that might be what
But what
happened.
was that process like? Like coming up with the even what the ask was and like explaining it in a way that people would be attracted to it, or like what was your process?
I think it all for that particular thing came out of excitement. I think it was already a race that people were pretty excited about, and I was psyched that we were going to have this opportunity to put on a women's field for the first time. And so I think I was just channeling my just excitement about it existing and saying, hey, this thing is happening. We don't want there to be any barrier for anyone to come and do it if it's something they want to do. You know, let's get the word out there and find some people who are interested in coming and racing. Yeah.
Cool. All right. And then after that, so initially it was, were you intending to support the whole series, or were you just intending to support the Brooklyn race?
I think that I definitely wanted the Brooklyn thing to happen. I think I had this idea in my head that we would be able to go and travel and do more. I had no idea, like we couldn't even remember exactly how many people were racing. I had no idea how many people were going to sign up. I didn't know what the next day was going to look like, but I wanted the first step to happen, and we were going to kind of just figure it out from that point forward. So I was game for the long run, but I didn't know how it was going to go.
That's fair. Okay, so I think that year they had like four
Yeah, there were
cities. I think it
yeah,
was
there were two Brooklyn
Brooklyn,
races.
Barcelona, Milan, and maybe was there a London year?
No, we did two races in Brooklyn. There was the Navy Yard after the Red Hook race.
There were
Oh wait, no,
two.
I'm sorry. No, that was the year before. I think that year there were just three.
There was just three.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know I skipped Barcelona, but then by the time Milan rolled around, I had my nerve up enough to try and do that one. And
Yes.
so you were willing to support in a financial manner that helped aid in getting me there. So that was really
Yes.
cool. Was there any point where you were like, man, I regret offering to help people because Ayesha's gonna keep coming back?
No, and look, if anyone was going to keep coming back, you were the one I wanted to keep coming back because I mean, well, look where we are now. So
Yeah, cool. All right.
I
So then that year happened. I raced Brooklyn, did not go well. I raced Milan. It went far better. And I was like hooked on the bug of racing and like excited about
yes,
it. Came to you with this idea of trying to go pro, whatever that meant. I don't think either of us even knew what that meant. But I was just amped on excitement and was
yeah,
like, I'm going to go for it. And so came up with my idea of what it would look like to try to start this journey. And you told me to make a proposal. And so I came at you with this, I think it was a pretty detailed spreadsheet of
yeah,
like, here are all the races that I am going to be able to do. This is how I'm going to make not a small amount, but a small amount for racing work.
mm-hmm.
And I think if anybody else had looked at that, they would have been like, this is not feasible, like in any way.
I think the common theme that you're gonna like that everyone's gonna hear in our conversation is that so much of this was driven by excitement, and I was excited to make it happen, and I know you were excited to do it, and seeing that, and I mean like yeah, like looking at the plan, it was like all right, well it's gonna take a lot to make all this work, but that combined with your excitement to do it meant a lot, and I okay.
So where did that trust come from though? Because it's like, this is like actual US dollars, right? Like you're not just like cheering for me verbally. It's not moral support. Like you're putting money into it. It's technically an investment in some way that you might never see a return on somebody else's excitement, right? Like that is a huge ask in my opinion. And
It
so like
is
where did that confidence, like was it like, well, if it doesn't work out, that's fine? Or like what was your
everything like there was always a if that doesn't work out it's fine behind like everything I've done in investing in bike racing because even if the end product didn't have to be you know success as a racer there were other things on the line there was working towards your goal of going pro and showing other brown and black girls in particular that this was a path like that alone just taking a step forwards there was worth it for me.
right?
But I also, for me, you know, I being able to make little changes in the sport that I love was just alone worth my involvement. So, it's gonna keep coming back down to this. Like taking a step forwards, no matter how big that step was worth it for me. And I had a feeling that we were going to be able to take a pretty big step together. That was all just a gut feeling. And
Okay,
again, I'll keep
instinct.
saying it. Here we are. So
I mean, I think I'm personally really good at convincing people I can do something, even if I'm not sure about it yet myself. um,
I feel you. I mean, an interesting thing about being a sponsor in this kind of sport is, I mean, for the most part, we're typically talking about sponsoring amateur sports, right? And it's like most of the time, as a sponsor of an amateur sport, you're doing it because you love the sport.
right,
And the biggest thing that matters when you're having these conversations with people is you want them to show that they care and they will I wasn't going to change like my life or like my business commercially by doing it. I was just
right,
trying to do a little bit of good. But by asking you to write that proposal and seeing you come back with details and the fact that you had thought about it and like it wasn't just like, hey, give me some money. It was like, hey, give me some money, but here's my plan. And that alone is a huge differentiator as a sponsor. So
right.
it meant a lot to see you put that together and know that you had this thing you were shooting for. So yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So I had a question and I think it's just escaped me. Okay. Right. So finding other partners to sort of help out with this. So we um, realized that there were other barriers that the money that you were willing, I think it was like around $5,000. I think
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Yep.
that I would still need like additional support in ways that could help make that money go even further. And so we decided to reach out to Cannondale. And you actually wrote me a recommendation letter, and I have it somewhere and I can find it. But I feel like that was super helpful. Like I already had connections to the company through another organization that I was working with, but I think they just saw me as an employee. And so like I'd applied for other things and like applied to be ambassadors for other things for different companies throughout the industry. I'm not going to name any names because I was rejected by all of them. And my message was always the same. It was, hey, representation is super important to me. I want to be an ambassador for your company because I like your products, but also I want to show this other side of, you know, who could be riding bikes, you know, what enjoying bikes could look like. That's not what it typically is. And nobody was into it. Like absolutely nobody was into it. And then, you know, we reached out to Cannondale, and I think I strongly believe that it was your recommendation letter that put that over the edge, because there was somebody else who was financially invested in me who was an unknown, you know, like I feel like it's really easy to invest in people that have already found their way, who have already made a big name for themselves. And that's not really a risk, right? Like I was a huge risk. Nobody knew who the heck I was. And the thing I said I wanted to do sounded absolutely insane to your average company, right? Like, who is this person? Who does she think she is? And how does she think she's going to do this thing? But you backed me up, and they like decided to take me on as an ambassador, athlete, or whatever it was. It was like a very loose deal at the time, but it was something, you know, it was more than I had before. And I was able to acquire bike frames, which, yeah, they're not cheap.
Nope.
And I rode those frames into the ground, really did.
Yeah, it's you know, there's a huge power in that plus one. You know, when you're just, you know, you've got one person that can say like, hey, like I'm in her court, I'm backing her up, like you should come along for the ride because it's going to be awesome. Like, you know, I mean, I can write a very convincing recommendation letter, and I'm happy to wield that power when it'll when it'll take us places. But yeah, right. I mean, yeah, it was the path ended up working out really well. It was great that I could get you started, and then I could, you know, be that kind of that first push to help you talk to other people and say like, look, it's not just me. Yeah, somebody else out there is like is thinking I can do this and backing me up. Like, you know, come along for the ride. And
I think the other thing that was really awesome that I didn't like was never a part of my proposal or never part of anything that I wanted to do. But you decided that I needed a kit, I needed a design, I needed to make myself not just a person racing this bike, but like a legitimate entity of my own. And I think there's just something that gets missed in the power of branding, even as an individual. And I think that is one of the reasons that I've been able to kind of weasel my way into a lot of the doors and the spaces that I've been able to weasel my way into. It's because my brand is bigger than myself, if that makes sense. Like,
sure,
I am Ayesha McGowan, but a quick brown fox, it sounds cool. And also it doesn't just sound like one girl doing a thing, like one woman doing a thing. It sounds like a team almost.
Sure.
And that year that I raced, you know, as a quick brown fox, I considered myself a team. I considered myself a one person team and treated myself that way.
There is a power in putting a name on something.
Yeah, for sure.
It's funny because like as a person, you know, I work in computer software and have tried to launch projects of my own, and like I'll get hung up on the name. I'll have a great idea and I won't have a name for it, and I won't be able to move forward until there's a name on it, because there's something about that step of putting a name on something that makes it real. And
absolutely,
yeah, that you know, goes such a long way, especially in what you're doing with trying to spread the word and bring on other sponsors and stuff like that. Like having a logo and having a name and having a kit, you know, you stand for more than just yourself, and you're showing that. So yeah, that's it's a big step.
Right. So basically, I am trying to replicate parts of our initial partnership in a fashion that can propel more people into a direction. And I think the really cool thing about this is that most of the people who have shown interest so far have never raced bikes before. And honestly, that is where I was before Red Hook Crit. That was the first, it wasn't a sanctioned race, but it was like the first organized closed course race that I'd ever done. And it was really awesome to have somebody, back me up in that. And I didn't feel as alone. Like I felt like I was a part of something legitimate. I
Right.
wasn't just, I wasn't just there. Even though I had no idea what I was doing, I was prepared physically, not mentally, but that's not the point.
Sure.
The point is I had support in a way that made me feel confident enough to get on the starting line, which as somebody with like extreme anxiety is a big deal that I felt confident enough to get on the starting line. And so that's what I want to do here. I want to give people who are like, I don't know, maybe the opportunity to get on a starting line and then like experience what I think is the thrill of bike racing. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, that they'll decide to come back and do it again. And I think that Toad is a particularly awesome opportunity because you don't have to wait months to do it again or even a week to do it again. You can do it again tomorrow. And that,
Right.
like, there's something about like, oh, this didn't go well, let me try something new tomorrow, that builds that confidence more rapidly and builds that excitement more rapidly. And it's literally like practicing that muscle of what it is to bike race. Like you can train and like be super strong and be a terrible bike racer, because in my opinion, when you get started, the best way to become a better bike racer is to race bikes. And so I think this is a really cool idea because it was my idea, obviously. But I'm just really excited to see how the participants react to it, like what they gain from it. And even if it's like, oh, this isn't for me, I'm really excited that people are willing to try.
Yes.
Like the fact that almost every single person who has shown interest has never raced bikes before is an indication to me that this is a necessary program, because this is the thing that has made people willing to try. And that's awesome.
Yes.
Because that means they were probably willing to try before, but didn't have that like extra push to do it.
Yep.
Which I think was me with the Red Hook Crit thing. It was like, I'd considered racing bikes before, but it was like, I don't know. And so this was like there's a structure, there's a plan, there's a support. I remember I met you at your co-working space office, and I put on a skin suit for the first time and felt absolutely ridiculous. Just absolutely insane. I'm sure there's a picture somewhere, but like,
oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I have one somewhere.
And there's a picture of me and you, and I'm in that skin suit, and I'm like posing with like an old prize bike, Red Hook prize bike or something. And it was just like, what am I getting myself into? What is this outfit? Like, why am I wearing this? And now look at me.
Yep. Well, I mean, skin suits are a whole other beast. I mean, I still race cyclocross, and the first race of the year every year when I put on a skin suit, it's like, oh, what am I doing in this thing?
I think it's ridiculous, but I understand the benefits, and so here we are. But yeah, I think just having that support of somebody being like, that outfit is okay. Like, this is just part of it. By myself, putting this skin suit on, I'm going to be like, nah, this is where we draw the line. The line is here. Yep, this is not it.
I feel that. But no, I mean, I'm excited that you're doing, you're using Toad as a venue for this, because I mean, I'll never forget the first time I raced, and first of all, my adrenaline levels were so high, I wanted to race again like 5 minutes later. And I knew I was going to race again in a few weeks, but that felt like years,
Right.
But also, without changing any fitness levels in those 2 weeks between my first two races, raced so much smarter and did so much better that second race just from having that experience and being able to sleep on it and learn about it. So the fact that people will have that opportunity to try a few times quickly is going to be, it's just going to feed off of that, which is going to be incredible.
For sure. I think for me, like I did the CRCA clinic, which
Mm-hmm.
is the club that you are a part of, and
Yes.
I didn't race again for several weeks. And so it might have been like a month and a half, but I was still so high on the adrenaline from the first one where it was like, man, that went okay, but I'm like scared, but also I want to do it again.
Yep. Yeah. I think we all that
It was a
was race
lot of
number
back and
one for
forth.
all of us. Yep.
And so I don't want the back and forth to become permanently back. So I like
Yes.
this idea of like, all right, we'll get them while they're like still high on the fun from day one, and they'll just go right back into it. And
Absolutely.
hopefully they'll get to do it at least 4 or 5 times in a row. And then
Yes.
I think by then you're hooked, right? You're either
Yep.
in it or you're like,
Yeah.
absolutely
Exactly.
not. I tried it, not gonna work out.
Like
um,
a lot of people will ask me like, why do you invest money in bike racing? And the one answer that I come back to all the time is that I don't. It's not like it's often been through my businesses, and it hasn't been a huge expense to do it. But I like to try and show that making small investments in things like community bike racing and equity in bike racing and things like that can make a huge difference. And I feel like you're carrying that forwards with what you're doing here. You're able to make this. It's a mini grant. It's you're not hiring someone to become a bike racer. You're just giving them a little bit of a help, a little bit of a boost to get them going, and it is going to make a big difference. And it's exciting to see that what I could do once is propagating into something bigger, and hopefully that can keep going, and we can lead by example, and other people can say like, yeah, I don't have much to give, but I do want to give. Let's see if we can help a little bit here and get more people doing something that that they didn't think they could do, or didn't feel like they had anyone to kind of lead the way, or anything like that. So I'm super excited to see you doing it. I've been trying to do it myself with cyclocross now, so I can get more people of color racing cross, because it's my first love. And I'm often one of the few brown people at the races, and I want to change that.
I
So
did try. It's not my jam, but I did try.
I'm glad we finally got you out there to try. But it's but yeah, it's with you doing this with Toad, hopefully me up here in the Northeast with Cross, we can start to show other people like, yeah, it doesn't take that much help to get
It
a few more
doesn't.
people doing it, and then we can keep growing and growing, and change things for the better.
I think that is an excellent point to start to wrap this up.
Yes.
I did want to acknowledge that you have given $1,500 to this mini grant program, and for that, I'm super grateful. And I think it's going to make a huge help for all of the participants. It's going to be, I don't know, I've been planning it and putting together an application, which opens on Wednesday, actually. And I'm just really excited about it. And I think it's going to do something for somebody, even if it doesn't change the world. Like not everything has to be this like massively world
Small
changing event. It can
small
just be
changes are
a
okay.
small point of encouragement for one person, and then I'll feel like I succeeded.
Yeah, I am so excited to be following along and see who's going to come out and race. Maybe not this year, but if this keeps going, I hope I can come out sometime and come
Yeah.
cheer the team on. And yeah, keep doing good, Aisha, because it's so amazing to watch everything you've done since we got started together.
Well, thank you so much for that initial boost, and I will keep riding until the wheels fall off.
I know you will.
All right. I will share information about Randy's cross program in the description. So if
Awesome.
cross is a thing that you would like to support, and even if it's not, I think you should support it anyway. You will have that information and you can do that. All
Thank
right.
you.
I think we're done here. Thanks so much, Randy.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening.